In this video, we're going to be learning about types of fractions. But before we get into the video, we first must understand what are fractions. Fractions is basically a part of a whole number. To write a fraction, you have to have a numerator and a denominator. The denominator explains the amount of parts they are, and the numerator explains the amount of parts that are filled inside. And it is divided by a line. And basically, fractions are nothing but divisions. There are 7 types of fractions. One is a zero fraction. A zero fraction is basically where the numerator of a fraction is 0. Next is a proper fraction. A proper fraction is any other kind of fraction you see, something like 3 by 5. However, in proper fraction, the numerator should always be less than the denominator. So when you divide, the number should always be less than 1. For example, 1 by 2 will be 0.5, which is less than 1. And 3 by 5, which is 0.6, and it is less than 1. Next, there's another fraction called a whole fraction. A whole fraction is where the numerator and denominator are same. For example, if you take the fraction 2 by 2, that is equal to 1, because there are the same amount of pieces in the numerator as there are in the denominator, and its value is always 1. Next, we're going to be talking about improper fraction. Improper fraction is where the numerator is higher than the denominator. There are more pieces than what the actual thing can hold. Example, take the fraction 8 by 5. You see, instead of being less than 1, it is greater than 1. Next is a mixed fraction. This is where instead of like an improper fraction, it's another way to describe it. For example, take the fraction 2 1 by 5. 2 is a whole number. 1 by 5 is the fraction. It is a whole number with a fraction. Sixth one is like and unlike fractions. A like fraction is where the denominators are same. For example, 1 by 7, 2 by 7, 3 by 7, the denominators are same. However, an unlike fraction is where the denominators are not same, like 2 by 8, 5 by 16, etc. Lastly, there is unit fractions. Unit fractions is basically where the numerator is 1 instead of any other number. Example, 1 by 6, 1 by 8, anything. So in this case, the numerator should always be 1 on the top. Now that we described these fractions, let's use them on a number line. As you can see, we have our number line right here. First, let's represent a zero fraction. A zero fraction, because the numerator is 0, it would end up over here. Next, we'll talk about a proper fraction. We can use the number 1 by 2 over here to represent a proper fraction. The numerator is less than the denominator. Then after that, we will have a whole number or whole fraction. 1 would be a great example for a whole fraction. Next, we can talk about something like an improper fraction. For example, I can take this over here, and this is actually 12 by 10. We could convert this improper fraction into being 1 2 by 10 or 1 1 by 5. You can see that 1 1 by 2 is a mixed number. Now let's label it. So this would be a zero fraction. This would be a proper fraction. This would be a whole fraction. This would be an improper. This would be a mixed. Now let's compare it. So over here you could tell a zero fraction is less than a proper fraction is less than a whole fraction, and a whole fraction is either less than an improper or mixed fraction. There are special fractions called like and unlike fractions. Example, let's use the like fractions. Like fractions would be like 1 by 10, 2 by 10, yeah, so on. Unlike fractions would be something like 1 by 5, 1 by 10. For example, this would be 1 by 5 over here, and this would be 1 by 10. So in like fractions, the denominator should be same, while the unlike fractions, denominator should be not same. Another special fraction is called unit fraction. Unit fraction is basically where the numerator is 1. It's always 1. For example, you can use 1 by 10, 1 by 5, and this other 1 by 10. I'm going to be circling just one of them. Identify whether the following fractions are proper or improper. Well, if we use 2 by 3, that would be a proper fraction. The reason why is because the numerator is less than 3, the denominator. Next, let's use 3 by 11. That is a proper fraction again. The reason why is because 3 is less than 11, the denominator. And lastly is 5 by 4. That is an improper fraction. The reason why is because 5 by 4, 5 is greater than the denominator 4. Here in this example, it says to convert each improper fraction to a mixed number. Well, here is how we do this. Let's say you're calculating something big like 27 by 8. Well, 27 by 8 is the actual literal form, 27 divided by 8. So let's actually do that. 3 minus 24 is equal to 3. So you get leftover 3 and 3 by 8. That should be the answer. Next, we should do 9 by 2. Well, we have to do the literal form, 9 divided by 2. So if we multiply 2 4 times, we get 8. And then we get the remainder 1. The 1 can go up here while the denominator, can go down over here for 1. Therefore, the mixed number 4, 1 by 2. In this question, it says circle the unit fractions. Unit fractions are fractions with the numerator of 1. Here, let's look for numerators of 1. Over here, it has a numerator of 1, this one too, and this one. All the others are not unit fractions. State whether the following pairs of fractions are like or unlike. Well, I can tell that both of these are unlike. The reason why is because they don't have the same denominator. You see, if you look at the denominator, this is 2 and this is 9. This is 3 and this is 5. So, leaving me with the choice unlike. Lastly, convert each mixed number into an improper fraction. 5, 2 by 7. How do we turn that into an improper fraction? Well, we have to take the denominator 7 and then we have to multiply it. Then once we get the answer for that, we have to add it with the numerator. So 7 times 5 is equal to 35. 35 plus 2 is equal to 37. And we keep the denominator 7. It would be 37 by 7. Let's do the other one. Let's see. 1, 3 by 4. We do again, we multiply it. And then we add it. 4 times 1 is equal to 4. 4 plus 3 is equal to 7. So, and we keep the denominator 4, so it's 7 by 4. So these are the different types of fractions.